Moisture is back, at least in this part of Texas. We've had kind of a clear few days here, but we've started picking up a southerly flow here, bringing up moisture from the Gulf, and so we've seen a bit of a change over the past 24 hours. You can see that here on the surface map. Got a southerly gradient in place. High pressure out to the east, so this is helping to bring a little bit of that moisture that's down along the coast northward, and we're starting to get a couple of storms here between Wichita Falls and Abilene, but these are very weak compared to what we had yesterday. So let's check out the big picture. We always like to take the thickness. This is the 500 to 1,000 millibar thickness. So we're looking at a average temperature between the surface and about 5 kilometers altitude, which is about 18,000 feet or so. And we like to look at these gradients here. The red lines are thickness. And we know from what we talked about over the past week that we're going to find a front to the south of that. So we can pretty much just place the front kind of in this area, along through this trough here in Kansas to this low in southeast Colorado, and then down into the Arizona area. And then the warm front, that part is going to be up in Quebec. And then our air masses are actually coming from high pressure. We have to keep that in mind and not just look at where the air is going towards. So we have a high over Maine. That's a source of modified polar air. It's been kind of cool in the northeast. And we have a large Pacific high off the Oregon coast, way out here on the left side. So that's bringing some cool Pacific air inland. And part of the map that you really don't see is the broader scale Bermuda High, which extends way out in the Atlantic. And that part is what's bringing some moisture northward into Texas. And you can see down to the south, there comes Matthew. So things are going to be fun here the next couple days. There's Matthew right there, Category 3. It's diminished a little bit due to crossing Cuba. Winds 100 knots sustained, and pressure has come up about 25 millibars up to 962 from a low about 2 days ago. But now that it's coming up over the warmer waters, we're going to be expecting that to start increasing a bit. Here's the latest satellite data we have. This is the infrared 10.7 micron image, and we'll play this real quick. This is the first time I played it, so it's flashing a little bit, but there you go. Starting to develop a slightly bit more of symmetric appearance on that eye wall, and we'll stop that right there at the very end. And so we're looking at the eye just south of the Bahamas, and yesterday we looked at Andros Island. So they're probably going to be scraped by the west side of that eye wall. Now we have to keep in mind the track of the storm. The heaviest effects are going to be on the right side, so looking in this area along the eye wall. That would be the spot that's going to be under the most threat, because the forward motion of the storm combines with the rotational wind field. And then on the west side, on the left side, we tend to get weaker winds there because the storm motion is subtracted. And we saw yesterday down in Guantanamo Bay, we were only getting about 40 knot winds down there. But of course it also helped that they were about 60 miles from the storm. Now, one other thing we can look at here is sea surface temperature. It's kind of hard to put the legend on here and the data, but we've got this little pocket here of 30 Celsius water, which is about 86 Fahrenheit. And what we really need for hurricane development is anything over about 26, which is about 79 Fahrenheit. The only downside about this pocket here, if we look at Google Earth, you can see that's kind of a shallow area here. Average water depth probably about 20 feet. So initially that will help the storm quite a bit, but that will cool off pretty quickly as the storm crosses that. But otherwise there's a lot of deep air around that too. And that track, let's check that out. Look at that. We're looking at a more westward track than what we've seen the past couple days here. Let me check and make sure my audio is coming through. Okay, looks good. Now, looking at the previous track, let's go back 2 days. We'll go back to October 3rd. Let's see how the models were doing, because we like to see consistency and what the general performance has been with the storm. And you can see right here the UK Met model has actually gotten a little bit closer to the expected track. The UK Met model is right here. Let's see, what do we got here? Yeah, okay. Then this UKX, that's the GFS tracker version. I don't know if any of you guys know what the UKX is, the GFS tracker. I've tried Googling this, and I really can't find anything in the literature or any description about that. I'm guessing they initialize that with the GFS vortex and stick that in the UK Met model for the deterministic forecasts. So that's what I'm guessing. And but overall that looks pretty close to the actual official UK Met solution. And you can see the real outlier here was unfortunately the NHC forecast. But they tend to go conservative with track changes like this. The track is being steered by the large-scale deep layer wind pattern. And let me just throw up one example chart. Let's do 200 to 700. This is from about 10,000 feet. I better move this down so you can see that. Yeah, this right here. 200 to 700, that's about 10,000 feet in the atmosphere, up to about 39,000. So this is taking a big chunk of the mid and upper level. This type of layer is favored by the strongest storms, like Category 5, pressures down in the 800 millibar range, like 890, 893. They tend to follow this deeper, higher track. But as you get shallower systems, try 700 to 850. That's going to be 5,000 to 10,000 feet. Now, one problem is there's some artifacts in here. You can actually see the hurricane in there, so you have to keep in mind the broad scale circulation. So broad scale, we're seeing a high right here around Bermuda, another in the northeast U.S. So the prevailing flow is to the northwest, kind of like this. So your shallow flow would tend to carry that more directly towards southern Florida and directly to Miami. So if our storm was a little bit weaker, we'd be looking at a track more towards the populated areas of southern Florida. Now the sort of track that's probably more representative of the storm is 400 to 850. This is, in fact, I might go a little bit higher. 300 to 850, that's going to be about 5,000 up to about 30,000. And you can see the large-scale track brings that north and a little bit to the east. And that seems to be kind of what the models are following right there. And let's look at those forecasts real quick. We haven't really gone over that. This is the latest forecast tracks for Hurricane Matthew. And they're all pretty consistent, bringing that right up to the coast. In fact, let's see here. Most of them within 50 miles of the coast. And the best model, which was the UK Met model, let me see if I can enhance that somehow. Looks like I'm going to have to draw over that. Okay, so that's going to be the UK Met model. So that's bringing that probably within about 30 miles of the coast. So keep in mind the stronger wind speeds are going to be off on the right side, which is going to be out in this area. So the big saving grace here may be the forward motion of the storm, keeping the left side a little bit weaker than the actual sustained winds being reported. But it will be pretty strong here. Let's check out the NHC forecast. The official forecast 48 hours from now on the 7th at 12Z. What is the 7th here? That's going to be Friday morning. Going for 115 knots here, so that's going to be in the Category 4 range. Gusts up to 161 miles an hour. But of course, friction and subtraction of the forward speed will keep the speeds down a little bit lower along the coast. Now, one other interesting thing going on, we've actually got two tropical storms out here. The other is Nicole. And there's going to be a little bit of an interaction between these two storms, and I'll show you that when we get to the GFS forecast. So let's see, where are we at? I want to make sure I don't skip anything here. We do want to cover a little bit of the forecast picture for the U.S., so let's go over that very quickly. This is the circulation over the United States. You can see it's dominated by a large low-pressure area up in Manitoba. There we go, right there. And we've got this other low-pressure system in Colorado. Whether that's a lee side trough, lee side low, or a frontal low, it's hard to tell. We're going to have to go to the surface data, and I believe that there was a front through this area. Yeah, we did the thickness chart. We know that there's a front in that area, so that's going to be a baroclinic system right there. And then further south, you can see the moisture starting to come back up into Texas, and it is a little bit recirculated. So that's the reason we don't really have dew points up in the mid-70s right now. So here's our map here. Let's just check out the Colorado system, so we're not completely focused on the hurricane. And we will go back to that, but let's check this out. There is a bit of a dry line in place. See the dew points here in the lower left side? We can find a boundary here by going along the east side of that moisture gradient. So dew points here, 29. We have 45 here at Clinton, 48 at Dodge City, and it increases to mid-60s. So here's one at, I don't know the name of that station, 68 here near Wichita, 68 at Oklahoma City. So this is going to be the tropical air mass just lurking off to the east along I-35. So we take that and we paint our dry line. And those of you who have followed storm chasing, you know that that tends to be a favorite area for storm development, and indeed that's the case down to the south where we had a few of those cells going up. The main baroclinic low well to the west. So that's going to be probably, let's see here, we can just follow the wind flow and look at the pressure. Probably going to be right in this area here. Kind of tied in with the Denver convergence zone right there. Okay, that's probably enough for that. We'll get back to the forecast and the hurricane outlook. Let's see, have I missed anything? I don't think I have. All right, so we're going to go right into the GFS forecast, looking at conditions over the next 1 to 2 weeks. Start out with the current picture here. You can see that Matthew is down here in the southern part of the Bahamas. There's our low in Manitoba. You remember we have a front kind of set up like this. And that high pressure area out in the northeast and off the Pacific coast. So let's crank that forward and check it out. Here comes Matthew on the Florida coast Friday morning. So we're looking at that right off the coast of Vero Beach and around Cape Kennedy. And we get a new high pressure area moving into the Great Plains. We have this front finally starting to push southward. So we should see a possibility of storms where it intersects the moisture. And that moisture is located right here. That's the moisture axis. So it looks like rain chances will be going up in the Dallas, Texarkana, Abilene area for tomorrow, and possibly all the way to Arkansas, so this area here. And by Saturday, That front has pretty much cleared all of Texas. The hurricane now grazing the coast of South Carolina. So it's not going to be completely over. This is going to be kind of a multi-day thing. And look at that other storm out to the east. There's a phenomenon called the Fujiwara effect, named after a Japanese forecaster who studied under Bjerknes, who was a very famous Norwegian meteorologist, developed the frontal theories. That meteorologist went back to Japan, did some studies, and he specialized in typhoons. And one of the things he found was that when they get within about maybe 800 to 900 miles of each other, the systems will tend to orbit one another, kind of like orbiting stars, binary stars, planets, that kind of thing. So what we would expect to see is this larger storm maybe take a little bit of a right turn. This storm maybe start moving this way, and we would see kind of an orbital effect like that. Now, does the model bear that out? Yeah, it kind of looks like that. Looks like our weaker storm shifts to the west a bit. Now look what happens here. This is a little bit interesting. The models had earlier agreed a few days ago on the remains of Matthew heading up to the Maritimes like that. Maybe it's the influence of that other tropical storm, but it is slinging Matthew back to the southeast or southwest. So look at that. Back to Miami. Looks a little bit weaker though. This is probably down around Cat 1 or Cat 2. I don't know. We shall see. That's going to depend on the sea surface temperatures, really. But it brings that down to the southwest, and it looks like it just kind of hooks up with the frontal boundary. Probably becomes baroclinic at that point, and then it kind of turns into just kind of a big blob of deep, rich moisture. And then that's carried into Texas around mid-month. Thought I heard a text come in. What's going on? Okay. All right, then for mid-month, let's see what else we have lined up. Looks like it's becoming active out in the Pacific Northwest, very large low-pressure area. So we're probably going to start turning our attention more to the northwest. And it looks like probably a few frontal systems starting to work inland around mid-month. So I guess that'll give us some other stuff to look at. Looks like an increase in moisture here, so storm chances will probably be back in Texas around mid-month. This is around October 17th or so. Okay, man, that was quite a lot to cover there, so hopefully I got everything ready. Let's see here, did I miss anything? No, that's it, guys. So tomorrow we're going to be looking at this hurricane taking aim on Florida, and we'll check that out, and it may be within the range of the Miami radar. So definitely join us here tomorrow at 8 o'clock, and let me check over on chat, see if anything's going on. It's like there's a lot of text here. I'm not really sure I can go through all this, but well, let me see here. Give me just a second. Yeah, okay. I think I've pretty much covered everything. I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock.